Hello and welcome to Mindful Living, where we explore the art of living with the intention, balance, and inner peace. I am Avik, your host, guiding you through conversations on health, meditation, mental well being, mindfulness, and the mind body connection. Each episode features expert insights to help you grow, heal, and thrive. So, take a deep breath, relax, and join us on this journey to a more mindful and fulfilling life. So, let's get started.
Hello and welcome, listeners, to another episode of the Mindful Living podcast. I'm your host, Sana, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with a truly remarkable guest, Dr. Fred Moss. Dr. Fred is a pioneering psychiatrist, mental health advocate, and the founder of Welcome to Humanity and the True Voice course. With over 40 years of experience, Dr. Fred has treated more than 30,000 patients and developed a unique approach to mental health, focusing on creativity, human connection, and authentic self expression. He's also the author of Creative Aid and Find Your True Voice and has been featured on over 200 podcasts. So, listeners, today we'll explore his groundbreaking methods for breaking down stigmas in mental health and how we all can embrace our true selves in this chaotic world. So, Dr. Fred, it is an absolute honor to have you on the show today, and welcome to the Mindful Living Show.
Thanks for having me, Sana. It's great to be here. I look forward to our conversation. Just wonderful. Thank you.
Lovely, lovely. So, Dr. Fred, you have had an incredible journey in the field of psychiatry, from working in adolescent mental health to founding Welcome to Humanity. So, what inspired you to take such an unconventional path in treating mental health?
Well, to me, it wasn't unconventional. To me, the mental health industry is already highly unconventional. You see, I knew as a child that the only thing that mattered was connecting with other people. That's not unconventional. That's just simply true. Like, all I ever knew when I was a child is that I wanted to make friends, and I wanted to like people, and I wanted them to like me. I was curious and interested in people, and I wanted them to be curious and interested in me. And I knew that that's where healing actually emanated from. So, I tried going to school. I went to conventional school, of course, elementary school and middle school and high school. And those were disturbing experiences because I wasn't really allowed to communicate and connect. Whenever I would talk, I would be told to be quiet or sit down or just do what the teacher does. And the best the best I would mimic the teacher, that's what I could get a good grade. And that just seems so absurd and so against the idea of, creating a dialogue, creating a discourse. And I really knew that, ever since I was a child, that's what I wanted to do, was learn how to communicate, learn how to speak, and learn how to listen, and learn how to create with my words and in my self-expression. So, it wasn't unconventional at that time. It was simply what's so. And what became unconventional was how psychiatry developed over time. You see, initially, psychiatry used to be something about creating a lot of relationships. Back in the day of Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung and some of our early founders in the world of mental health, the idea of being connected to another human was very important. But over time, and especially during the 80s and beyond, this idea of psychiatry being close to their clients has faded. And instead, psychiatry has gone in a direction of declaring itself of managers of something called biological psychiatry, or managing chemical imbalance or organic issues, as if when we're sad or when we're scared or when we're anxious or when we're awkward or when we're distracted or when we're scattered, that there's something wrong with us, and maybe there's nothing wrong with us. And that, maybe we're just in that state of affairs because the world is difficult, very difficult to negotiate. I mean, after all, this is a very challenging world, right? This is a hurdle-filled world. There's so many things that we have to do just to stay on board. And there's a lot of reasons to be depressed. There's a lot of reasons to be anxious. There's a lot of reasons to be afraid. There's a lot of reasons to be distracted. There's all these reasons. And maybe when we're going through those experiences, there's actually nothing wrong with us. So psychiatry decided that there is something wrong with us. And to me, that's the non-conventional approach. That's what's different than what we already knew about humanity. And that's really how Welcome to Humanity got formed, with the idea that psychiatry itself was taking us down a path with an assumption that there was something wrong with us if we were uncomfortable. In truth, there's nothing wrong with you being uncomfortable. Krishnamurti, he said, there is no sign of mental health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And what we have here is a very challenging society, and to be uncomfortable in that society is really quite normal.
That's really very informative, Doctor, and thank you for addressing to this question. And your work focuses heavily on the power of human connection and self-expression. So can you share why these elements are so vital for the healing process?
Well, I think we all know that, and I appreciate the question, but I think somewhere along the line, that that's true, and everyone knows that that's true. What are we looking for from the day we arrive is we're looking to be understood. We're looking to be heard. We're looking to be given credit. We're looking to make sure that our voice can be heard and that who we are and what we do matters. That's actually a known, that's just understood and universally applied to all humans, whether you're in India or you're in UK or you're in Singapore or you're in St. Louis or you're in Auckland, New Zealand. It's all the same. We want to be heard, we want to be seen, and we want to see and hear others. So is it, something new to decide that human connection is at the heart of healing? I don't think so. It's not new. It's age old, it's universal, and it's hardwired into our system. And then when you talk about creativity, well, what I notice is that when I'm doing something creative, whether that's in having a discussion like we're having now, or in some of the formal creative arts, the visual and performing arts, for instance, arts, music, dancing, singing, drama, cooking, writing, gardening, when I'm doing those kind of creative things, my distress with the world tends to reduce considerably or even be eliminated and disappear. And I notice that creativity is what we're here for as well. We're created in order to create. Some of us think we're not very creative. Well, I need to tell those people something. If you've made it this far, you're creative, because it takes something to live through every second of life. You have to decide what's important to you, move things out, pick the right paintbrush, if you will, and put the right paint on the canvas in the right space so that you can get things done. So just to live another day or another moment in life requires creativity. But when we really get creative artistically, our symptoms or our sense of distress and despair disappear. And during that time, it's a capacity to communicate is expanded, because our voice and our hearing, like we're doing now and talking, is not the only way to communicate. And in fact, it's a very limited way of communicating, because we have to pick our words carefully and then string them together in sentences and hope that it gets over there like we wanted and all that. And in fact, art, music, and dancing has an expanded sense of self-expression. As we all know, that's why we go to art shows. It's why we dance. It's why we play music or listen to music, is because people are expressing themselves in an expansive way, much beyond that which can happen inside of the vocals, vocal cord, ears connection.
Great. So you have been a vocal critic of the overuse of psychiatric medication. What alternatives do you offer through your creative aid methodology, and how have they transformed the lives of your patients?
So what alternatives do I offer from standard medication? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, well, I don't think that medications are very useful in most cases. You know, what I've learned is that medications tend to make problems worse or give us new problems. And I think, again, it's not anything new here. We're just being honest about it. So, you know, medications come on the heels of a diagnosis. And that is because most people come to a doctor with the idea that they already have a diagnosis. They just want to know which one it is. You know, psychiatry is a funny field because if you tell, you know, in most fields, if you tell somebody that they're okay, they're happy about it. But in psychiatry, when you tell someone that you think they're okay, they get very angry about it. They want to know what's wrong with them. They want a diagnosis. They want an alphabet soup. They want to know, they already are coming in pretty sure that there's something wrong with them and they don't want to hear anything different, that they're okay. So, you know, if we really get to the idea that, you know, once you think there's something wrong with you, then you think you need to be fixed. And then you're willing to take medicine to fix yourself. But medications don't do that. Medications actually induce, increase, or even perpetuate, or sometimes actually cause the symptoms they're marketed to treat. And the diagnosis does the same thing, after all. When you get a diagnosis, now you think you fit into a certain, you know, a certain grouping, and you become the diagnosis you've been given. So, you know, for instance, if someone goes to the doctor and says, "Hey, doctor, I have dry skin, I eat too many peanuts, I drink too much water, I have a large nose, and I'm a mess in a china shop," the doctor would look them up and say, "Oh, you're an elephant." And you go, "Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. I've got all the criteria of an elephant. That's so true." And then they walk out of the office thinking that they're an elephant, and they start looking for a circus or looking for chains. You know, they start looking for what is it that really is an elephant. Now that I know that I'm an elephant, what do elephants do? And then they walk out and become the diagnosis that they've agreed to, that they've been given. Now, this is not the only way to do things. We don't have to carry on giving someone a diagnosis for what's wrong with them. And if we don't do that, then they won't need to be fixed, and then they won't pursue medications in order to fix them. They'll just understand that they're going through the difficulties of what it really means to be human in this very challenging world.
Great. That's a great explanation. So, Doctor, in your experience, how does creativity, as you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation as well, through activities like art, music, and writing, can help people tap into their authentic selves and also foster mental wellness?
Okay, so the way to tap into your authentic self is to be true and honest with yourself, to be genuine. And sometimes people have trouble choosing words or listening to other people because it really does take something. But when we're creative, it kind of flows through us, and we get to express ourselves in other domains and other ways, other realms. So when we're playing music, especially if we're improvising, so even tapping a pen on the side of the desk is playing music, or picking up a harmonica, or maybe a guitar, piano, we're actually expressing ourselves in ways that are really, really unique. And again, very creative and expansive on who we are then becoming. Now, if we're going to communicate with other people, we have to resonate at our truest frequency. So, you know, the way to do that is express ourselves naturally, and then I'll create the space for other people to express themselves naturally. So when we're creative, using the art, music, dancing, singing, drama, cooking, writing, and gardening approach, we have an opportunity to tap into our creative selves and find that frequency that is more aligned with humanity than the one that we've learned about ourselves. You know, we've often learned to pretend to be somebody that we're not in order to protect the people that we are. So we don't have to do that anymore. We can actually tap into our present, core, genuine, honest to goodness, authentic self. And once we do that, often using, creativity as a tool, we then get to harmonize our frequency with the rest of humanity and create that space for natural communication, which we've already established is at the heart of all healing, of all conditions, of all types everywhere.
Great. That's really great, Doctor. And in your book, Find Your True Voice, you talk about the importance of authenticity in both personal as well as professional life. So how can someone begin to break through societal expectations and, pressures to live more authentically and align with their true selves or purpose?
How does someone break through the requests of the community and of our work to be a certain way so that they can then be authentic and find their true self? Is this what you're asking? Something like this?
Yes.
Yeah. So, look, the outside world has its demands. The outside world has its requests and has its invitations. And sometimes the outside world asks us to do something that is misaligned with our true self. And sometimes, you actually have to do certain things that aren't aligned with our true self. But we try not to make a practice of that. And so, the more you can do in your life that is aligned with your honor of your true self, the more you should do. You should not spend time doing things that make your soul sacrifice. There's not spend times that are heartaches. And if your job or the requirements of your community or of your family are misaligned with your heart, you have two things. You can either say, I'm not going to do that, or can I do it this way or that way? And usually we can be creative enough to come up with an alternative. Or you can actually change what is aligned in your heart. And maybe you can start doing those things as if they're aligned in your heart. But if they're not aligned in your heart, the true honest nature of you will come through. And so meditation and gratitude are great ways to separate ourselves from what the world is experiencing around us. When we do a formal meditation, we start learning that we are not our feelings, we are not our thoughts, we are not our emotions, we are not our physical sensations or our worries, our concerns, our regrets, our disappointments. We're not all that. Those things are happening around and through and to us, but we're centered here and we're really undamageable. We're really impenetrable, unmovable, unshakable. And because we're all of those things, we can then make brighter choices as to what it is that we're willing to do in the world that is consistent with our heart and consistent with our soul. Because when we start living a life that's consistent with our heart and soul on mission, we get a life that actually works. And again, that's just a matter of finding that space. If you have a job that is not consistent with what you are, if you have a job where you're being asked to do things that fly directly against your soul, that is a very dangerous space to live. And some people can't move their job right away, but they have to find a way so that they don't have to immerse themselves in doing things that are misaligned with their core values.
Definitely. And a question on the mental health landscape. So currently it often feels profit-driven and disconnected from the human experience. So do you think there are any changes necessary to be done in the industry to promote more compassionate and authentic care?
Oh boy, most definitely. I mean, we're talking about like burn the house down. It's the whole field is meant to not be attached to the emotions. Don't pay attention to the feelings, just pay attention to the disease. And there is nothing valuable about that. That is a counterproductive way of dealing with humans. So we separate the humans from their disease, and doctors are taught to deal with the disease and don't get caught up with getting caught up with your client. Don't get caught up with getting caught up with your patient's wants, their needs, or the holistic value of their patient. Instead, be focused on the laboratories and the symptoms and the treatments and the therapies and the medications. Really be focused on those things and not the person. So when you hear me say that, don't you hear how preposterous and absurd that is? Because that's not the way that we should be treating each other or treating humans, nor is it the way that a healer should be treating his or her clients. So the object here, does there have to be some tweak in the industry? Well, the industry has done very well for itself. It's probably the most profitable industry on the history of planet Earth. So it's hard to kick it and say that it's not working, because from their perspective, it's working very, very, very well, with billions of dollars per day in profit margin generated every single day, all day, every day. Billions of dollars in profit margin alone. So is that an industry that needs help? Well, it depends how you're measuring whether it needs help. It's very successful from the bottom line. There's never been an industry more successful. Never. You cannot name even the war machines aren't as successful from a bottom line profit margin than than the medical world, and particularly the psychopharmacological world. The psychiatric world is, just making a killing every single day, every single minute. And it's not just because of, the industry is bad. It's not because of that, but you could say the industry perpetuates the illnesses that it treats. And it does do that. It actually creates the illnesses that it treats, which is, between you and me, is a terrific, brilliant business model for sure.
Great. And you have spoken a lot about the stigmas surrounding mental health, doctor. So what's your take on the view or opinion that society should move towards a more open and accepting view of mental health, and what role does communication play in this part?
Yeah, so I don't really often speak about stigma per se, because I don't see that mental illness as a diagnosis is very useful ever.
Uh-huh.
I don't ever see that. So, I'd rather have it be that when someone comes in, they tell me they have bipolar, or they have ADD, or they have autistic spectrum disorder, or post-traumatic stress disorder, or panic attacks, or narcissistic personality disorder, or whatever the disorder is of the week. When they come in, I don't care. I truly don't care. And it's not a matter of removing the stigma. I don't even believe they have it. I don't even treat them as if they have it. So stigma is based on assuming that they have it and not discriminating against them. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you don't have any condition. Just like you're just you, and you're trying, just like I am, to find a way to get through this very challenging world, stumbling and bumbling and tumbling through the world. So it's not a matter of removing the stigma. It's a matter of taking the person and seeing that they don't have that diagnosis that they think they have, or that you think they have, and start treating them like face to face, just like another human, because in fact, that's all they are. They're just another human. And even that person over there, that you're like, oh yeah, you should meet my sister-in-law, or what about that politician, or what about that musician, or what about that, famous, I don't know, murderer or something. These are people who have just done what they've done and not done what they didn't do to try to get through this world. If we get that, it's not really a stigma. I'm not asking you to have lunch with a murderer. Don't do that. I mean, there are people out there who are performing very nasty activities, and you shouldn't befriend them, but maybe there's nothing wrong with them. And maybe if you were them, you would do exactly what they are doing. We don't know the history that got them to be who they are, and we don't know what their actual intentions are. But what if we treated every human as if they were really equal? Meaning, what if we treated everyone as if there was nothing wrong with them? There's things that are desirable about them, things that are repulsive about them. We pick and choose our friends carefully, surround ourselves with people who are aligned with our thoughts and values, and treat us right. And how does communication fit in? Well, we can't know about anybody if we don't communicate with them. So open listening, becoming available to authentic listening. Have you ever noticed that in these days, there's divisive issues out there, right? There's things that some people think and some people think entirely different. It's broken up families. I mean, right? Like there's brothers and sisters who don't talk to each other anymore because one thinks one thing and one thinks the other thing. It's so disturbing and so traumatic, really, really just tragic. Well, if we were able to be communicating, we could see that when someone communicates an adversarial opinion, something that is diametrically opposed to the way you think about something, if they do so from their heart and they're authentic about it, we can actually tolerate it. So the idea here is to be as authentic as you can when describing what it is that you think and who you are about things, and leave open the space for someone else to be authentic back to you, because that's the form of communication that we're talking about. Pure, genuine, honest, authentic communication comes from a space of being unadulterated and unrusted and unmuddied, cleaned up a little bit. And that's, of course, what the book Find Your True Voice really talks about.
Sure. Great. So finally, Doctor, what advice do you have for those struggling to find balance in their lives while dealing with the chaos and stress that often accompanies modern living?
Well, balance is not a function of what's going on around us. I want to say that again. A sense of balance is not a function of what's going on around us in the environment. A sense of balance is an internal experience. In other words, that's where meditation comes in or equanimity comes in. That's where the possibility of being balanced is really just unrelated to the chaos and misery and disarray that's happening around us. There is definitely chaos happening around us. It's a difficult world. I get it. And there's been chaos in life for as far back as we can remember. When we look at the old Romans, the old Greeks, when we look at Jesus, we look at Buddha, we look at Marcus Aurelius, or we look into ancient times, there's nobody who lived through times that wasn't entirely chaotic. So it's always been part of the human experience is to find our balance in face of chaos. And the way that we do that is we sit still and steady. This is at least one way. Sit still and silent and steady. Meditation is a great route to that. And then also there's gratitude, there's nature, there's nutrition, there's hydration, there's spirituality, there's service work, there's creativity. And, surrounding ourselves with people that really are good with us and good, that are aligned with what it is we think about life is also very effective and very important, as is animals, for the way, even pets. The Moss method includes 20 of these things. I think I just named about 11 or 12 of them, but there's 20 of them that we can really pay attention to, including, sleep hygiene and, stepping outside, nature walks, those kind of things, really important. And, that's how I would say, and I kind of have lost the essence of your last question. But how do we manage this crazy life without, when we're out of balance? It's like, it's not a matter of taking medicine. I'll tell you that. So medicines they're meant to give you a chemical imbalance. And the hope would be that it's giving you a counteractive chemical imbalance to the one that you assumed you had in the first place. Like somehow you're, giving the other side of the teeter-totter. But that's not how medicines work. Medicines reliably do give you a mental imbalance, and then you're going to feel like it's internal rather than the medicines that are doing it. So I'd say stay away from medicine, surround yourself with great people, and do good things and don't do bad things. And if you can, fit in a gratitude and a meditation practice because they're remarkably powerful and they really give an opportunity to see the world from a steadied and more balanced state.
Sure. That's a really great conclusion to the conversation, Dr. Fred. And if our listeners who are inspired by your work and they want to learn more or connect with you, what's the best way for them to reach out and stay connected with you?
Yeah, so the best way, I have two websites that are both kind of related to each other. One is Dr. Fred, drfred360.com, and the other one is welcometohumanity.net. And one is a kind of a concise version of it. And you can get all my podcasts and all my books, and you can get some freebies there. And you can get a discovery call. You can get, keynote speaking that I've done and access to me that way. And the other one is welcometohumanity.net, which is a more full web page that has many different pages and the same kind of content, a little bit broader with testimonials and like who I really am and how I got here. Mm-hmm. And those are the two spaces. And then I buzz around social media as well. And if people want to write me, they can go to Dr. Fred at welcometohumanity.net, at drfred at welcometohumanity.net. I'll be glad to answer calls.
Great. We'll have all those links mentioned in the show notes for all of our listeners. And Dr. Fred, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your profound insights on mental health, creativity, and the most important, human connection. Your work is truly inspiring, and I'm very sure our listeners have taken away many valuable lessons on how to embrace their authentic selves. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Sana.
And for those who want to learn more about Dr. Fred's work, be sure to check out the show notes along with this link on your favorite podcast platform. And until next time, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Mindful Living Podcast. And remember to stay mindful, present, and live authentically. Thank you.